Hello again, everyone.
Now we're going to delve into the fascinating structure and function of the stomach, which is an integral part of our digestive system. The stomach is often perceived as a reservoir for food, but in reality, it's a complex organ that starts the chemical breakdown of proteins and significantly aids digestion. The stomach is inferior to the esophagus in the upper left quadrant of the peritoneal cavity. The adult stomach is between 15 and 25 centimeters long. Let's begin by considering the stomach in its quiescent state. An empty stomach has a rather modest volume of about 50 milliliters. However, don't let this small figure deceive you. The stomach is an expandable organ. It can balloon to accommodate up to 4 liters. That's about the size of a large jug of milk. When it's full of food and drink, this remarkable elasticity is essential for its function as a temporary storage tank. Now, when we look inside an empty stomach, we find that its inner surface is not smooth. It contains numerous folds known as rugae. These folds are not there for mere aesthetics. They allow the stomach to stretch significantly as it fills, and then return to its original shape when it empties. As we dive deeper, we find that the stomach is divided into major regions, each with a specific role. Let's walk through these regions. First, we have the cardial part, or the cardia, surrounding the cardial orifice. This is where the contents of the esophagus empty into the stomach. Then we see the fundus, which is the dome-shaped region tucked beneath the diaphragm. It's like the cap of the stomach, often filled with air that enters when we swallow, creating a characteristic belly sound when tapped. Moving to the body, or mid-portion, which is the largest and main part of the stomach. It serves as the primary site for mixing food, gastric juice, and the digestive enzymes. Now let's turn our attention to the funnel-shaped pyloric part. The body of the stomach is continuous, inferiorly with the pyloric part. This region is fascinating because it's where the stomach starts to funnel its contents toward the intestinal phase of digestion. It begins with the wider and more superior portion of the pyloric region, known as the antrum, which narrows into the pyloric canal and finally terminates in the pylorus. And here's a key player. The pylorus is continuous with the duodenum through the pyloric valve. This valve, or sphincter, is crucial as it controls stomach emptying. It ensures that the paste-like substance called chyme, which the stomach has processed, enters the small intestine in a controlled and regulated manner. In summary, the stomach is more than a simple holding container. It's a dynamic organ that actively participates in the digestive process by mixing food with gastric juices, breaking down proteins, and carefully controlling the passage of chyme to the small intestine. Its design is a testament to human digestion's intricate and highly coordinated process. Let's pause here. Can anyone tell me why the ability to expand is so crucial for the stomach's function? The autonomic nervous system serves the stomach. Sympathetic fibers from thoracic splanchnic nerves are relayed through the celiac plexus. The vagus nerve supplies signals passing through parasympathetic fibers. The celiac trunk supplies oxygen-rich blood to the stomach through the gastric and splenic branches. The veins of the hepatic portal system drain the blood into the hepatic portal vein. As we explore the anatomy of the stomach, you'll find that it's not just designed to contain food, but also to engage in complex processes of digestion through its specialized structures. The innermost lining of the stomach is the epithelium, which houses gastric pits leading to deeper gastric glands. These glands secrete the gastric juice necessary for digestion. Let's focus on one of these glands, enlarged in our diagram here on the right. Within these glands reside various types of cells, each with a distinct function, but working in harmony to produce the components of gastric juice. One of the key substances released here is hydrochloric acid, which not only helps to denature proteins, making them easier to digest, but also activates pepsin, the primary enzyme responsible for protein digestion. Now, let's delve into the structure of the stomach wall itself. It contains the usual 4 layers or tunics found throughout the digestive tract, but with some special modifications. The muscularis externa in the stomach is notable for its 3 layers of smooth muscle: circular, longitudinal, and the extra-oblique layer. These layers of muscle are pivotal for the churning and mixing motions that physically break down food into chyme and then propel it into the small intestine. Let's not overlook the mucosa layer of the stomach. It is uniquely adapted with a simple columnar epithelium composed entirely of mucous cells. These cells secrete a 2-layered coat of alkaline mucus. The surface layer of this mucus traps a bicarbonate-rich fluid beneath it, forming a strong protective barrier against the acidic environment of the stomach. This mucosa layer is dotted with numerous gastric pits, which serve as the entrance to the gastric glands. These glands are the production houses of gastric juice. Within the glands of the fundus and the body of the stomach, we find the most active sites of secretion, composed of several specialized cells. Mucous neck cells produce a thin, acidic mucus, the exact function of which is still not fully understood. Parietal cells secrete hydrochloric acid, creating a highly acidic environment with a pH between 1.5 to 3.5. This acid denatures proteins, activates pepsin, and is also important for breaking down plant cell walls and killing many bacteria. Another vital product of parietal cells is the intrinsic factor, a glycoprotein essential for the absorption of vitamin B12 in the small intestine. Chief cells are responsible for secreting pepsinogen, the inactive precursor to pepsin, which is then activated in the acidic environment provided by the HCl. These cells also release lipases, which begin the digestion of lipids, accounting for about 15% of lipid digestion in the stomach. Lastly, we have the enteroendocrine cells. These are fascinating because they do not directly contribute to digestion within the stomach. Instead, they secrete chemical messengers into the surrounding connective tissue, or
lamina propria.
These messengers, including hormones like gastrin and somatostatin, and paracrines like serotonin and histamine, regulate various aspects of digestion, from stomach acid secretion to the movement of the digestive tract. Through this complex interplay of cells and secretions, the stomach wall is not just a barrier, but an active and dynamic participant in digestion. It is finely tuned to handle the harsh acidic environment necessary for breaking down food while protecting itself and regulating the digestive process. First and foremost, the stomach acts as a crucial agent in the breakdown of food. It functions as an initial site where the food we consume is stored temporarily. This pause allows for both mechanical and chemical processing to begin. As the stomach churns the food, it transforms the solid bites we swallowed into a semi-liquid mixture known as chyme. This chyme is methodically moved into the small intestine, where further digestion and nutrient absorption will occur. One of the remarkable aspects of the stomach's function is the secretion of hydrochloric acid, or HCl. This potent acid has a dual role. It serves not only to denature proteins, altering their structure to make them more accessible to enzymatic activity, but also creates an environment where the enzyme pepsin can operate effectively. Pepsin is the main enzymatic player in the stomach, specifically targeting proteins to initiate their breakdown into smaller peptide chains. This process is the cornerstone of protein digestion, preparing these macronutrients for their eventual absorption in the small intestine. Furthermore, in infants, there is another significant process at play involving the enzyme renin. Renin specifically targets milk protein, known as casein, breaking it down into a curd-like substance. This is easier for the infant's digestive system to handle and is an essential step in the digestion and utilization of milk. Interestingly, the stomach is involved directly in the absorption of certain substances into the bloodstream. Two such substances are alcohol and aspirin, which are lipid-soluble and can pass through the stomach lining into the circulatory system. This immediate absorption can have rapid effects on the body, which is why we feel the effects of these substances quite quickly after ingestion. Now, while these aspects are intriguing, there's a fundamental function of the stomach that is absolutely essential to life: the secretion of intrinsic factor. This glycoprotein is crucial for the absorption of vitamin B12. Vitamin B12, as many of you know, is a necessary cofactor required for the maturation of red blood cells. Without B12, our red blood cells would fail to develop properly, leading to significant health issues. This brings us to a condition known as pernicious anemia, which is characterized by the lack of intrinsic factor. Individuals with this condition cannot absorb B12 effectively, resulting in a deficiency. Since red blood cells are vital for carrying oxygen to our tissues, a deficiency in B12 impedes this critical function, leading to symptoms such as fatigue and weakness. The standard treatment for pernicious anemia involves bypassing the need for intrinsic factor altogether by directly injecting vitamin B12 into the bloodstream. This approach ensures that patients with this condition can maintain adequate levels of the vitamin and thus a healthy red blood cell count. Ladies and gentlemen, as we delve into the regulation of gastric secretion, we encounter a fascinating interplay between neural and hormonal controls. The gastric mucosa secretes more than 3 liters of gastric juice every day. This process is finely tuned by several factors. Firstly, neural mechanisms play a crucial role. Stimulation of the vagus nerve, a key component of the parasympathetic nervous system, increases gastric secretion. This highlights the digestive system's preparedness in response to the anticipation of food. In contrast, the sympathetic nervous system exerts a dampening effect, decreasing secretion and highlighting the body's intricate balance between rest and activity. Hormonal mechanisms offer another layer of regulation. Gastrin, a hormone produced by the stomach, stimulates the secretion of hydrochloric acid. On the other hand, the small intestine produces gastrin antagonist hormones, which serve to fine-tune this digestive process. To provide a more structured understanding, let's break down gastric secretions into 3 distinct phases. 1. The cephalic reflex phase is where the mere thought, sight, or smell of food can trigger a conditioned reflex that prepares the stomach for digestion. 2. The gastric phase, which lasts about 3 to 4 hours, is responsible for 2/3 of gastric juice release. This phase is activated by the stretching of the stomach wall and chemical stimuli, including partially digested proteins, caffeine, and low acidity. Such stimuli activate G cells to secrete gastrin, which in turn promotes the secretion of hydrochloric acid and digestive enzymes. Interestingly, the buffering action of proteins leads to a temporary rise in pH, further increasing gastrin release. However, a high acidity level eventually inhibits gastrin secretion, illustrating a negative feedback mechanism that prevents excessive acid production. 3. The intestinal phase begins when chyme enters the small intestine. Initially, it encourages the stomach to continue its secretory activity through the release of intestinal gastrin. However, this stimulatory effect is short-lived and soon overtaken by inhibitory influences,
as the duodenum fills up. Several factors in the duodenum,
such as distension, the presence of fatty or acidic chyme and hypertonic solutions contribute to the inhibition of gastric secretions. This is a protective measure to prevent the small intestine from being overloaded. This inhibition is achieved through two main pathways: the enterogastric reflex and the release of enterogastrones. The enterogastric reflex involves both the enteric nervous system and long reflexes mediated by the sympathetic nervous system and the vagus nerve. Enterogastrones, which include secretin and cholecystokinin, are hormones released by the duodenal enteroendocrine cells to inhibit gastric secretion. And this, dear students, concludes our exploration into regulating gastric secretions. Understanding these mechanisms is key to grasping how our body manages the intricate digestion process.